Won't keep you waiting for long. Might as well get right after it. Whew, what a weekend. What a last, 48 hours, 72 hours, 96 hours, whatever you want to go back to. What a stretch it has been for the Calgary Flames as we welcome you to a Tuesday night edition of Flamesnation Live. It's Pat Steinberg along with you live from the Sportsnet 960 downtown studios. Just finished up a Tuesday edition of the big show, and I don't know where that image went. We had an image, and it was right there, and now it's gone. So I might as well go back to me. It was going to be a picture of Darryl Sutter, and we were going to say we're talking about him. I don't know where the file went. Apparently, that's gone. So we are talking all about Darryl Sutter, and let's see who's Noah first in. Zach, Matt, Josh, Justin, Shane, Ian, Garav, Sam, Chris, Tom, Kyle, another Josh, everybody all in with us. And I can tell you, as we're talking all about Darryl Sutter, I can also tell you that Flames Nation Live is brought to you by our friends at Deuce Vodka, the feel-good vodka, and everybody hoping that with Darryl Sutter taking over as head coach of the team, that things are going to be a little bit more feel good. Everybody is hoping that things are going to be a little bit more successful on the ice. That would be the hope anyway. If you can't find Deuce Vodka at your local liquor store right now, just get on them. Make sure that they bring it in, but it is available across Alberta. The feel-good vodka, the celebratory vodka is Deuce Vodka. Okay, so Darryl had his first practice as head coach of the Flames today. It was pretty strange, I'm not going to lie. It was definitely very surreal seeing him back on the ice. It was very odd seeing him back behind or in front of a Flames backdrop, rather, and doing media in that regard. So it's just a weird adjustment to make. And I think everybody understands why Darryl is here. I think everybody understands why he has come in. And I think there's a lot of people who are excited, and rightfully so, for him coming in. But I'm not going to say it's not surreal to see it again. I'm not going to say it's not a little bit of an adjustment. Get your comments in on the Facebook Live today. Get your questions in. There's lots of things that we can talk about, but let's start with the one from Josh, who said, "Did Treliving just hire his future general manager replacement?" I don't think that we're talking about Darryl being here to be the new GM of the team. Like, it didn't end so well last time Darryl was the GM of this team, so I don't think that is something that we're going to see. I don't think that is the end game. Like, I'm not sitting here saying that Darryl's not on the hot seat, because I think he absolutely has to be on the hot seat. Not Darryl, Brad rather. I think you absolutely have to think that Brad's on the hot seat. I think you absolutely have to think that all of a sudden, after a move is made, this is head coach number 5 since there's my hand right there. Head coach number 5 since Brad's been here. Like, I know that he inherited Hartley and was able to make the change, but then Gulletson only 2 years, Peter's only a year and a bit. Ward, 24 games is how many games he got as full-time head coach, and now Darryl. That's 5 head coaches. So I think the spotlight, at the very least, I believe has very clearly been shone now on Brad Treliving, the general manager. Do I think that Darryl Sutter is going to be the new GM? I don't know. Like, I wouldn't do it if I were them, but never say never. Like, I didn't think Darryl was coming back as head coach, so I'm not saying it's not going to happen. It just isn't necessarily the move that I would make if I were the Flames organization. Zach writes, "Who do we think will thrive the most under Sutter? My pick is Backlund. Not as good as Kopitar, but their style of play and two-way games are very similar." I think Backlund will be really good under Sutter. I do, but for me, in the same vein as Kopitar, I'm going Lindholm, because I don't think they're moving Lindholm from center. I think Lindholm's going to remain as this team's number 1 center. So in saying that, I think there's a really good chance that we're talking about a really, really not a massive step forward, because Lindholm, I think, is at the stage now where I don't know if he is what he is, but I do think that Elias Lindholm, at 25, 26 years old, pretty established NHLer, but I think he is absolutely maybe number one on my list for a guy that could very much thrive here with a new head coach. So I go Lindholm as one. I go Backlund as one. Few others. I think Mangiapane. I think Dubé. I think Valimaki. I am fascinated to see what Kachuk is and what we see from number 19 under Darryl Sutter. And then there's the really interesting ones like everybody seems to feel that Johnny Gaudreau is not going to work under Darryl Sutter, and he may not. He may not. I mean, it just might not be a good fit. But I mean, the big strengths. I was talking to somebody in the organization, kind of off the record, about this today. One of the big strengths of Darryl Sutter is being able to take a team and then utilize players at their best, put them in situations to succeed and get the most out of players. And sometimes what he asks for is maybe just too much for any one individual. And I get that. I mean, sometimes it's just not a good fit. But I do believe that a guy like Gaudreau has the chance to thrive under Sutter. I'm less confident in it than I am with other guys, but if Johnny buys in, I think that Darryl can make him a better player, and I think that he can use him and put him in spots to succeed. So I'm not writing off that all of a sudden Johnny's just not going to mesh, and I'm interested in it. There are those guys, Monahan, Gaudreau, Giordano, certain players that I'm really, really interested in to see how they mesh. And I'm not saying that it's going to work with Darryl. I'm just saying that it's not a guarantee that it won't work. And I'm not ready to say that there's no chance it's going to work. From Sam, says Elliot Friedman says the Flames have been in conversation with the Predators about getting another right shot winger. Would the Flames pick up Arvidsson? I don't know, potentially. I mean, Philip Forsberg's also an interesting name out there. The thing about that is, and I'd be okay with this because it would be more than just a one-year thing that you're aiming at, but you do have to remember there is that 14-day crossing the border quarantine that has to go into it. But I'm a big fan of both Forsberg and Arvidsson, so if they were to go down that road, I'd have no problem with it. Would definitely be interesting to see if they would go down that road. Here's from Noah, something I've thought about. Do you think finally splitting up Monahan and Johnny is something Darryl might consider doing? Maybe, although I did take away from Darryl's first news conference today, I did take away the fact that he kind of was talking about how there's not going to be massive overhaul this year. I mean, there's only 30 games to go, and the goal is for them to make the playoffs in these final 30 games. I think if there's going to be any massive overhaul in terms of the way they play and big time who's playing with who stuff, I think that it will be going into next season. So I don't think that's out of the question. I think it's something that they should consider, really, because I think a lot of things you should consider right now. But that one seems less likely than some of the others. And certainly from a stylistic or structural standpoint, any of those big changes, I think, will come going into next season and kind of over the off season. But, people ask all the time these days, would you split up Monahan and Gaudreau? And, if things don't start to really rectify themselves, I think that it's something absolutely you could try. Maybe putting Monahan on the wing or moving Monahan to a different line and away from Johnny, maybe moving Johnny onto a line with Lindholm or something like that at center. Here's one from Travis. Regardless of what Sutter does, if the team's top guys don't start scoring, this team won't do anything. I'm really curious on what he can do to the young D core on the team. They have some really nice young D. And here's the interesting thing about where I'm at with Sutter, or I think it's interesting. Maybe sometimes I use the word interesting too much about some of my thoughts. Maybe they're not all that interesting. But what is big for me when it comes to Darryl Sutter is, what happens between now and the end of this season, yes, it's important. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to suggest that it's not important. But this is more than just the final 30 games. This is more than just whether or not they can make the playoffs or not. This also is something about setting a culture, setting a standard, setting a style, setting a brand for next season. And they might have too large a hill to climb for a coaching change to take effect and everything to be adjusted and for them to still make the playoffs. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. I think it could. I mean, they're not completely out of it, but it might be too big of a hill to climb. In saying that, what happens in October and what happens when we get to next season, that to me is just as important, if not more important, than what happens in the final 30 games of this season. This from Justin. The way the schedule is set for the rest of the season, do you believe Sutter has enough time to turn this team around and coach them to the playoffs, or is this season pretty much over? I don't think that this is a season that's over by any stretch of the imagination. For instance, they've got 2 games coming up this week, Thursday and Saturday, with the one of the teams that they're chasing. They've still got 6 games left with one of the teams that they're chasing in Edmonton. The opportunity is there for them to gain ground. The opportunity is there. They're not catching Toronto, but Winnipeg, Edmonton, Montreal are still in reach. So I think that there is absolutely the opportunity for them to get back in it. The season is not done. They have more of an uphill climb. They have less of an opportunity than Edmonton, Winnipeg, or Montreal because they've put themselves a little bit more behind the 8 ball, but that doesn't mean that they don't have a chance. So, no, I don't think the season is lost, and that's it's kind of like serving 2 different masters here, or you're kind of 2 things can be true. Darryl Sutter being brought in is absolutely for the long term. Darryl Sutter being brought in absolutely can be for the short term too. It can work both ways. So, no, Justin, my opinion is that this season is not lost, albeit they do have a big uphill climb. Another one from Zach, who says, your thoughts on Sutter's comments in the presser after practice. Don't quote me, but he said, the system they play under is fine. It's the smaller details and execution of it that needs to be worked on. And that's basically what he said. And I think what he's getting at is that if we're going to do any structural overhaul, to do it 26 games into a 56-game season when there's only 30 games remaining, maybe not the best way to do it. Thinks the system is fine. They can succeed with that. But I think the big thing that you're going to see with Darryl, and the big thing that he brings, knowing the resume and the presence that he has, is that I think he's going to be able to harp on players to do things quicker, and it might make more of an impact. So, for instance, one of the things that we've seen is a very stagnant breakout for the Flames this year, and you're seeing, on the breakout, you're seeing them hit the middle of the ice guy really slowly and not really in a quick transition way, and it stalls it, and it makes it easier for a forechecking player without the puck, defender without the puck, to kind of disrupt the breakout because it's not happening bang, bang, bang. Well, now, with the authority that Darryl Sutter can potentially bring, all of a sudden it's, hey, talking to a winger, you hit this guy, you hit your guy breaking, whoever the middleman is, whether it's a D-man filling space or whether it's the centerman or whoever, it's like you hit him, bang, 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 don't think, don't wait. And when you've got Darryl Sutter who is harping on that, I think it makes a difference. It's no knock on other coaches who probably did the same thing, but those other coaches don't have the same resume as Sutter. So that's where I think you might see the biggest difference, or should see the biggest difference immediately, is the pace of play kind of within the same structure, and the pace of decisions being made within the same structure. Josh writes, I think the playoffs are a long shot this year now. Everybody better start auditioning for next year or they'll be sent packing. I think the Flames have got a pretty good idea of who they know they're going forward with and who they know they have to move, but this will just highlight it and maybe underline it for them. This says, if the Flames want to make the playoffs, Montreal and Winnipeg need to lose a majority of their games. Well, I don't know if it needs to be a majority of their games, but I mean, Calgary's played 2 against Montreal. They've got 2 this week, so they've got 7 left, and they'll have 4 left after this week. So there's some points they can take off Montreal. They've got 4 left with the Jets, so there's 8 points they could potentially take off Winnipeg, and they're 4-point games. So, yes, I mean, they're going to need some help, but because they play some of those teams still, not as much help as perhaps they normally would. This says, if they trade Bennett and a pick, does it really matter if they need to quarantine? Bennett would be no big loss for this team at this point, going back to trades. Fair point, but I don't think you're getting, to Sam's question, I don't think you're getting a Arvidsson or a Forsberg for Bennett and a pick. So that would be something that I think you need to take into consideration. So fact of the matter is, There's still plenty of time left this season. There's still room for them to make the playoffs this year. And who knows? If they make the playoffs, they'll probably be playing pretty good hockey, and they'll probably be buying into a system under or a style of play under Darryl Sutter that that's got them having some success. Who knows what type of noise they could make in the playoffs? If they don't make the playoffs, that's not good. And I think it will shine the spotlight even more brightly on general manager Brad Treliving. But at the very least, you can say the you can at the very least say that the head coach is here for the long haul, and that a lot of what you're going to see that makes a big difference is starting in October and starting next season. Another one from Zach. With Nordstrom hurt, what's the fourth line looking like in your opinion, assuming Nordstrom is still out with a lower body injury? My guess is he doesn't play tomorrow. We're going to start knowing a whole lot less about the lineup with Darryl here, I think anyway. But with no Nordstrom, let's just assume he doesn't play tomorrow. With no Nordstrom, my guess is you're going to I don't know. That's an interesting one. Where does Bennett play? Where does Ryan play? Because Backlund wasn't at practice today with a family matter, but we're assuming he's going to play tomorrow. Bennett, we didn't see at practice. He's day-to-day with something. So I don't know. It all depends on Bennett and Backlund's status, because I don't think Nordstrom will play. So let's say Nordstrom is out, but Backlund and Bennett both being there. I could see the fourth line being Ryan between Bennett and Ronaldo, or Ryan between Bennett and Ritchie, something like that. That's what I could see happening. Maybe they put Bennett back with Monahan and Gaudreau. There's a lot of interesting things to watch for at practice tomorrow. Because they were missing 3 bodies today. So come tomorrow at practice, might have a better idea. But yeah, it all depends really on that situation. I don't know, Zach, if Bennett's hurt. I don't know if it's an injury. They called him day to day, but they didn't say with what. So I don't know if he's just ill. I don't know if he's got an injury. If it's an injury, it's an undisclosed day-to-day injury. So that's an interesting one to keep an eye on going into practice tomorrow. Great stuff. Thanks for stopping by, everyone. Good to chat with you today. We'll do another one of these on Friday following Darryl Sutter's first game. So be back with us on Friday for the next edition of Flamesnation Live. Don't forget our outstanding sponsor, of course, is Deuce Vodka, the celebratory vodka. The Flames have got some big games coming up, so maybe they're going to need a little bit of celebratory vodka. If it's not in your local liquor store, it should be. Make sure you harp on your local liquor store to get Deuce Vodka in. It is available in Alberta right now. Brett Kissel, who we know is more associated with the Oilers, but Brett Kissel, the man behind Deuce Vodka. Check it out at your local liquor store, and if it's not there, make sure they bring it in. Stay safe, be well. We will talk to you on Friday. Thank you so much for stopping by on another edition of Flames Nation Live. Be kind to everybody. We'll talk to you soon.